I think that I always, knew that there was more to life than where I grew up. I think that, that's obviously why I wanted to become an actress. I knew there was a life outside there.
We spent a lot of time in the last half before the break talking about allyship. And what I noticed about your discussions of it is that you've been doing this for a long time, that you've always had diverse friendship groups, and you haven't let, this sort of this guilt, I think, that is in the air of like white guilt determine like, this is why I want to be friends with people of other races. You just wanted to be friends with people of other races just organically. There's a lot of white people right now asking the question of how they can be an ally. Although you are more of a disruptor than an ally, which is greater than being an ally. So for the white folks asking how they can contribute, how they can join this fight against systemic racism, oppression, police brutality, what would you say to them?
I would say to them, there's no need to get defensive. You know, just stop and sort of breathe and listen. And somebody fighting for the right to be seen or heard or vote or walk down the street or eat M&Ms or sleep while being Black, that's not taking anything away from you, and no one is accusing you of anything. There's no need to get defensive, and to get defensive is not a productive emotion. What I want to be very careful here what I say, because I don't want to say what the Black community needs, because I don't know what the Black community needs, because I'm not Black. And I want to say that when you call me an ally, I take that with, so much humility. And I, by no means do I sit on any pedestal and think I know anything or more than anyone else, or that I'm not a constant student of this world, because I am. So I've made many mistakes. I've said many wrong things. I've offended many people by things that I've said, whether I meant them or not. So first I want to say that I don't sit in any judgment of anybody else, and I don't think I'm an authority on anything. But I personally get a lot of people that seem very defensive, and I'm not sure where that comes from, or why some white people feel the need to be defensive that I celebrate Black people or Black culture. That has nothing to do. If I say that I love oranges, and I love oranges, then you're going to get, well, what the fuck about bananas? You don't like bananas? You didn't say shit about bananas. What the fuck is wrong with bananas, Ellen? Like, bananas are great. I didn't say shit about bananas. I just said I like oranges. If you want to like bananas, go like bananas. Why are you mad because I like oranges? It's just like, the emotion and the rage at other human beings. I think everybody just needs to slow down. And if someone is in the street crying that they're hurt, how do you not say, oh yeah, they just fell down, they're in the street, they're hurt? Where is your heart and where is your mind? And why can't you just see that another human being is in pain? That has nothing to do. Why is that some reflection on you, that another human being is in pain, so somehow that makes you mad? The ego is a bitch, and it's usually, our downfall if we let it get bigger than it needs to be. Obviously we see that right now, the biggest ego in the world and the biggest house in the world. So I would just say just take a moment and take your ego out of it. There's nothing to get defensive about. The minute you feel yourself getting defensive, just take a breath. No one's talking about you. This isn't about you. This is a human being asking you to see their pain. And the work that needs to be done, well, that's You're not even going to get to that work. You're not even going to get enlisted for that job if you can't just get past the first thing of, let's just acknowledge that none of us know shit about this except Black people and what they've experienced and what they've gone through. This has been a, you know, a learning journey for, you know, forever for me. And I'm still, you know, I got hopefully 50 more years to go.
So you mentioned the neighborhood you grew up in Boston, which does have, much like a lot of cities, a unique racial past. So your first experiences with race, how did you kind of, I don't want to say overcome where you grew up, but like, how was it that you were, you know, little Ellen Pompeo or however you were, actually having the comfort to seek out other friendships and have experiences with people in different cultures than your own? Like, how did that even happen?
I think that I always, you know, knew that there was more to life than where I grew up. I think that, you know, that's obviously why I wanted to become an actress. I knew there was a life outside there. And I heard a lot of racism, and it always made me curious. Made me curious about the gay community, made me curious about the Black community. Like, what is all this? All I see gay people doing is being joyous and happy and dancing. And all I see Black people doing is being joyous and being happy and dancing, and then suffering also and being called names. I don't see I see all the anger and hate and vitriol coming from here. And over here, I see joy. So it doesn't really take, you know, a rocket scientist to figure out, well, I want to see what's going on over here in these communities, because there's fear and hate and anger over here, and there's rainbows and fireworks over here. I just want to go over here. So I was just drawn to the joy and the celebration.
You mentioned that you kind of took a lot of shit for having these kinds of friendships. How did you handle that part of it?
Well, you know, it's not something you sort of announce at first, you know. It's just sort of, I would just sort of live my life here and then go do, you know, have my friends and go to the clubs on the weekends and, you know, hang out with who I wanted to hang out with. And then when people find out where you're hanging, one of my famous things that I did do actually is my dad had a pool in his yard, which was kind of unusual. Like, most people didn't have pools where we grew up. We had a pool, and so I invited like probably 15, 20 of my Black friends over to my dad's for a pool party.
Oh, I can only imagine how that went over.
So, you know, listen, my dad did plenty of things to me in my life that I didn't like and I didn't agree with. So now you have to deal with my shit that you don't like and you don't agree with. And he came home from work and he was, you know, mad. And, you know, I just constantly like to challenge. And it's funny because, you know, when I met my husband and we were talking about going home to meet my dad, you know, my husband was terrified. And I said, you know, it's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. And my dad, who would have liked to think he was racist and grew up in that environment. And I see how it's born. I see what it is. Right. And then Chris ended up being his favorite person in the entire world, who he couldn't go a day without speaking to. He's obsessed with him. So, you know, it's just, and it turns out they had known each other from back in the day. My father had gone through cancer. This is a great story, actually. My dad had gone through cancer and it was on a lot of experimental drugs and was kind of had a lot of anxiety and didn't remember much. And my husband said, "That's Cigarette Joe." After we left, and I said, "Yeah, my dad sold cigarettes for a living. He worked for a company called Lorillard and had, you know, convenience stores as a route and would sell cigarettes." And he said, "You know, I used to sell your dad cigars. I used to rob cigars from the smoke shop, and I used to sell hot cigars to your dad." he was like one of my biggest customers. And I was like, really? And I knew that my dad did that. And he sold, you know, my dad had a huge side hustle, selling cigarettes and cigars to the wise guys. And it was crazy that they actually knew each other. My dad didn't remember him. But Chris, my dad was, you know, really tall and handsome and quite the charismatic guy. So he was a memorable guy, and they actually knew each other.
Wow. That came full circle.